Right, good morning everybody. My name is Richard Morris and I am currently, the farm manager for the National Trust at Wimpole. Within 3 weeks I'll be the farm manager at Sheepgrove for the Kindersleys. So in a little bit of flux at the moment. For various reasons, the Trust has been interested in soil carbon, and quite rightly so, for a long time. It was that interest that sent us on this sort of journey. Because one of the most important things that we understand when we're looking at soil organic matter and soil carbon is that we know what we're measuring. So the determination of organic matter in soil is technique specific, and there is no absolute correct answer. The organic matter content of soil should always be defined in terms of the analytical method used, whether walk-me back or loss on ignition, the usual techniques. Combustion may be an under or overestimate depending on what else is present. Structural water in clay lattices and carbonates in calcareous soils can potentially be volatilized and contribute to the loss on ignition result. The volatile materials lost usually consist of combined water and carbon dioxide. So basically what we're talking about there is a very scientific method, which is the walk-me back. It tends to stay more in the science domain because it's an expensive process. When you talk to farmers across the country, they're mainly using loss on ignition, which is a fairly cheap way of analysing organic matter in your soil, and most of your soil analysing companies use that one. So when you talk to a farmer generally about what organic matter is in his soils, he'll give you a loss on ignition result. Unfortunately, you can't really relate the two. One changes exponentially, the other one runs fairly flat. So I'm going to confuse you even more as I talk today, because we've been using both methods because we want to do a scientific study and put some real documentation behind what we understood. At the same time, we want to be able to converse with our tenants, our farmers, our neighbours. So we did the loss on ignition at the same time, so that there might be a little bit of doing and throwing, so please forgive me for that. This is why we're all here. This is what we're looking at. Most of the soil organic carbon is not inert, but in a continuous dynamic state of accumulation and decomposition. Continuous exchange of carbon between the soil and the atmosphere, mostly as carbon dioxide, CO2 and methane. So that means any net loss in soils will increase the CO2 concentration in the atmosphere, and any net gain, accumulation or sequestration, will reduce the CO2 concentration in the atmosphere. So that's the nub of what we're talking about. That's why it's so important. Jump forward a little bit towards the end of our story. We went into organic conversion in 2009. We'd done a very serious space study prior to that, and then 5 years later we did a repeat study. So we know through that 5-year period how our soils increased in organic matter. The increase, although it was very, very small, was the equivalent to sequestering the equivalent carbon that Sheffield emits every year. So it's not insubstantial. This is one little farm in Cambridgeshire that has the ability to take all that carbon out of the atmosphere. So if we could all work together and work in that direction, it would make a massive difference. So what do we do? This is Wimpole Estate. That's the house that I live in. Well, not quite. But what the Trust was interested in doing, and it sponsored a PhD study from a student up at Durham University, to try and find a proxy, if you like, or as John says, a plate meter. How can we look at historic management and have an understanding of what impact that's had on the organic matter and hence the carbon locked in the soils? The first study was a young lady called Madeleine Bell, She's a tiny little thing. We nicknamed her Gollum when she was little. And that was with the most respect. She had a fantastic work ethic, but there was nothing to her. She was tiny. So it sort of fitted quite well. So she had a good sense of humour. She did her primary study on the Wallington Estate with about 7 different tenant farmers, and the Wallington Estate's up in Northumberland, and it goes from a very high plateau above sea level with sort of tree line and lovely peaty soils, right down through sort of grassland farms, down to arable farms in the valleys. So it was really good variation. At the end of that period, she wanted to validate what she'd learned, or test her sort of thinking. So she put a general query out to the National Trust of the estate that would like to repeat this study. So I put my hand up and said, I think it's important for Wimpole, and threw our hat into the mix. And fortunately, Madeline came to Wimpole. So she spent 2 weeks with us in 2008. Took over 400 soil samples from across our whole estate. So that was the land that we manage in hand. Sorry, Wimpole Estate's a 2,500 acre farm. It's in a beautiful triangle. It's a fragment from what it was 200 years ago when it was 25,000 acres. So you think, how did somebody manage 25,000 acres 200 years ago? No mobile phones, no computers, but they did it, and they did it well. Anyway, she took 400 samples, she took everything back to Durham, and she analysed it, and that's what we're going to look at. So some of the information she was looking at was altitude. So this is the shape of the Wimpole Estate. This is the boundary is the 1198 that goes to York from London, and this is the 603. It goes straight into Cambridge. So we're sitting just west of Cambridge. Topography. The major soil groups were very heavy clays with some calcareous outcrops and a little bit of green sand. And also the historic land use, the tenancies. We've got a fair bit of knowledge and documentation of how the land's been used over the last 300 or 400 years, which is very useful when you're trying to understand how historic use has had an impact. But what came out of the study was it's only the last 30 or 40 years that you can really use. The older stuff just tells you a story. And the land use as well on the top of the tenancy. So you've got historic parkland, grassland, which fits in really neatly with today, the pasture fed. The green bits are parkland, on South Avenue, runs straight towards London, and then all this around the outside is arable. And I've got to be honest, most of the work we've done is on the arable farm, what we do to improve the arable farm. But there is something for you all to learn from our pasture. And it's why I personally think the plate meter is not going to help you move forward to understand soil organic matter. Sorry, John. But that's what today's about. It's about discussing ideas and working things out. So I'm just sharing what we've learned. I'll skip one or two of these. Different land uses. This is part, I've pinched some of this off Madeline's presentation, so I apologise. Right, interesting bit. So, Madeline came back with the results of her 400 samples. So the blue bits, I don't think you can see, the blue dots, this on a black Swally test, 6.8 to 7.56% of organic matter, hence the highest carbon. Carbon is a direct equivalent component of organic matter. Now if you look at where those are, and go back to the previous maps, this bit is woodland belts. We know that's been woodland for 400 years, and you can follow it round with the blue. Absolutely, you know that from your garden. You go and pull some soil out from under a tree, it's black, it's fibrous, it's beautiful, easily workable, it's high in organic matter, it's high in carbon. Then we started getting some interesting results. So you can see where the grassland is, green, the grass, actually quite good. 3.2 up to 4.7. So we know that's been grass. Again, it's a historic estate. It's been this beautiful bit around, Capability Brown, Humphrey Repton. It's been grazed by all sorts of cattle and sheep for 200 or 300 years. Really quite good organic matters. Then you start going out to the arable farm. This is the interesting bit. So varies tenant by tenant almost. This bit on the south of the estate, so these two farms, they were dairy farms into the 70s. So they were grassland farms into the 70s, then went to arable. So that's where the soil organic matter, this is taking field averages now, rather than just the dots. They were round about the 1.85, a little bit less, sometimes the other places a little bit more. And that fitted with Madeleine's expectation. It takes 30 years, once you break pasture, it takes 30 years to actually take that organic matter out of the soil. Then we've got two tenants up here, who, they're conventional farmers, they farm well, they leave the straw in the field. Important point to come back to in a few minutes. Averaging just, somewhere between 1% and 2%, just depending which field. Then we went down to another tenant, and this other tenant takes his straw away. He bales it, a big local contractor bales it, and it gets sold to a local power plant, a coal-fired power station, which is a really perverse government strategy. They encourage coal-fired power stations to burn straw, at least 5% straw, so they can get their carbon credits. And what's that doing? It's just burning the organic matter out of the soil. It's creating a false market, taking it off the farms. That's what George Eustace needs to think about. Now then, the next bit was very embarrassing for the National Trust. Because this bit here, the National Trust had found in hand for 30 years. And in 30 years, we had gone beyond what our tenants had done. Seriously beyond, and completely mined the organic matter out of the soil. So that found that we managed to have less than 1% organic matter. Now this started to make sense. I started at Wimpole in 2007. In between my first and second interviews, the National Trust Swindon challenged the region, the East Anglian region, why this farm was in hand, what were we doing with it, why would we take all this risk, contract farming, why don't we just let it out to a tenant, what's it doing for us? Now one of the reasons was Wimpole played an important part. Our third Earl, 1780 to about 1810, was one of the founders of the Agricultural Board and the Royal Agricultural Society, a great agricultural improver. He built a model farm, he wanted to bring best practice back. So we've got this provenance, we've got this fantastic story, we've got a food story, and we've got 200,000 visitors a year coming to our farm to understand that story. So that's why the farm was kept in hand, part of it anyway. But there was a challenge. What we're going to do with this farm? The questions I was asked at my second interview were considerably different to what I was asked at the first. Now I must have answered them, it surprised me at the time, but I must have got it right because they gave me the job. Or whoever else was there must have made a real hash of it. I don't know which. But I immediately sensed that somebody was sensing there was a problem. So when I arrived and started looking at what is principally a stockless arable farm, I could see there were some real problems. So we'd used a contract farmer to manage that farm for the 30 years. He had written his own contract, and we'd signed it. We set it to him 30 odd years ago, and he'd done exactly what was written in the contract. We stood all the costs, we stood all the risk, and he found it as he saw fit. He also, on the strength of that, on that sort of structural financial support, built a big contracting business around what he was doing. He was farming 3,500 acres, heavy land in Cambridgeshire, on a very tight rotation, first week, second week, oilseed rape. So that gives you a very short window to do all that cultivation work. 3,500 acres. The only way to do that is to use the biggest tractors you can get hold of, the best technology, the biggest machines. And there's a legacy with that. So he was working our land. You know, he'd look after all his other customers first and then come and do ours. But he was working that at inappropriate times, when it was wet, when he had to. But he was delivering what we signed up for him to do. So the legacy was 550 acres with no soil structure, completely obliterated, and almost no organic matter. So I could see that in the structure. I could sense there was something wrong. 5 minutes. I'll just nip through some of this. So I had 2 pieces of luck in 2008. Madeleine came and did this study, and then a soil scientist retired from Cranfield, a chap called Ian Bradley, and he wanted something to do. He wanted somewhere to volunteer. So I got hold of him as well. And he did 200 soil structure holes across that farm. And while he was doing that, he was looking for worms. And he did not find one worm on that arable farm. So it's not rocket science, is it? We're stood here now thinking soil structure's shot. You can find that out with a spade. The organic matter's shot. So what are the worms going to live on? That's why they weren't there. So this was the information that really reinforced our business case to go into organic conversion. So we moved forward. 2009, we started on our journey into organics. Relax. These are all taken off the Wimpole Estate. This is all our wildlife. So we went into conversion, and the way we went about it, we put all our farm down to a 2-year lay, which was a mixture of grasses and 7 different legumes. And it did phenomenally well in our soils. So we managed that just with the copper. So this is principally the arable farm. The grassland farm just converted as it was, and the livestock simultaneously converted alongside it. More pretty pictures. 5 years later, as I said, we repeated that study, and that is the difference in our organic. So that was 2 years of fertility building and then 3 years of organic cereals. So what did we learn through that sort of process? It's a handy farm because you've got this lovely triangle to refer to all the time. So you can see various things. And what we were able to learn, because Madeleine used a GPS, so when the MSc students came along, they were able to take samples almost within a metre of where Madeleine has. That's a very important factor, very important to think about going forward. And we had 5 years of experience and knowing exactly how we'd managed the farm for 5 years, and then we could look at the fluctuations and understand the changes. So our very best field was this one. 2.5% change, 2.5% increase of what we had to start with. And what we had to start with was almost nothing. So that tells you that there's no easy win. There's no golden arrow for this organic matter. It's going to take a long, long time to really increase. It's just, people that say, oh, I've increased my organic matter by 5% this year, they're dreaming. It cannot happen. This field, for some reason, the Vikings liked it, the Anglo-Saxons liked it, the Romans liked it. They all had encampments on that field. Because we've got this archaeology underneath it, when we went for our HLS scheme, Natural Inland said, you can't plough that field anymore. So we put it into this shallow cultivation, 15 hectares shallow cultivation. Otherwise, that field was managed exactly the same as this block around it. So what made the difference is the ploughing. Ploughing at 8 inches oxidises organic matter tremendously. So the variations across the farm, biggest difference is ploughing. Ploughing is a big, bad thing to do. So not a huge problem if you're a pasture farmer, you don't do much ploughing. Well, you might do, depends on your rotation. The other thing that affected the arable farm particularly is the straw. So we have our own livestock, we were taking straw off. We didn't need all of it, depending on the year, between a third and a half we were taking to our livestock. And by the time we composted that back down, that was never more than enough to spread back on about 25%. We used to lose that bit somehow. So we did two things. We decided we've got to move away from ploughing, almost impossible for an organic farm. So we bought a shallow plough. So we now only plough 3 or 4 inches. And we stopped baling straw. All our straw gets spread on the field. That's how we value what it's doing. And we buy straw in for the livestock. So I buy non-organic straw. I have to put signs up to tell them not to eat it. That's a perfectly reasonable thing to do. This is one of our grass fields. This is one of our grass fields. So this is where I'm a little bit concerned about the plate meter. In that, although this was principally about the owl farm, we did start learning how the organic matter fluctuated in our grassland. And they're all managed the same. And there doesn't seem to be any difference. Although we manage them the same, the cattle graze differently across the farm. Some fields, they love the taste of the grass and they'll graze it down as flat as this. And other fields, they don't like it. They stay, they'll run through it quite quickly, which to me, in my mind, feels like mob grazing. They take the top off, but they leave an awful lot of organic matter. It doesn't seem to make any difference. So that's sort of interesting. That's just that's my experience here. And then probably to finish on, this has taken me 9 years to really get into my head, but it's such a simple, beautiful thing. Soil scientists have been telling me for years whenever I go to a trial pit in a field, go and have a look under the hedge. That's how good the soil could be. And how many of you have heard that? You've all heard it. How many of you have taken a soil organic matter sample from under the hedge? Anyone? A couple. I did it this year. So this is loss on ignition. So this is in the middle of the field. And this is the hedge at the edge of the field. It's been at least 40 years that we know of, probably longer. Same all the way through. When I see figures like that, I'm sort of thinking, this goes back to your plate meter, John. This is the potential. This is that soil's potential. So that's the same soil, but that's the potential where that field could be. And we're, in this field, halfway there. Cobs Wood, we're less than halfway there. Something really powerful about that. I asked Ian, my soil scientist, what advice he would give today. And he felt that, don't try and reinvent the wheel. There's lots of stuff out there already. Look at your soil structure, get a spade out, dig holes. He's found one of the most useful tools is the Barberstat booklet. Which it's a pictorial way of demonstrating what soil scientists have been doing for years in that structural assessment of soil. And it also looks at numbers of worms and the difference between hedges and fields. That's what I've learned. Hope that's helped a little bit. Yeah.